The first sign someone is gaslighting you happens in a single sentence. They say, "That never happened." 3 words. And if you believe them, even for a moment, everything that follows becomes negotiable. Gaslighting is not a heated argument. It is not obvious. It does not announce itself. It is a slow, methodical process of making you doubt the most fundamental thing you possess, your own perception of reality. Machiavelli wrote that men are so ready to believe what they wish to be true that a skilled deceiver will always find a willing audience. The gaslighter understands this instinctively. They are not working against your intelligence, they are working with your trust. 5 signs, each one invisible until you know what to look for. You remember a conversation clearly, the words, the context, the moment it mattered. You raise it. They look at you without flinching and say, "That never happened." You're imagining things, not a misunderstanding, not a different interpretation. A flat denial of something you know occurred. Here is what happens inside your mind when this lands. 2 competing realities collide, your memory and their certainty. Your brain, wired to resolve contradiction, begins searching for an explanation. And the one it reaches for first is not that they are lying, it is that you are wrong. This is not a flaw in your thinking, it is human nature. We are more willing to distrust ourselves than to believe that someone close to us is deliberately deceiving us. The gaslighter knows this. The denial is not confusion. It is not a different memory. It is a calculated move, delivered with the confidence of someone who has made this calculation before. Every time you accept the denial, you cede a small piece of your own authority over reality. Over time, those pieces accumulate, and what began as a single disputed conversation becomes a pattern where you no longer trust your own mind at all. The tell. When denial is consistent, specific, and delivered without hesitation, they are not misremembering, they are rewriting. You express that something hurt you, a reasonable, measured response to something they did. Their reply, "You're too sensitive. You always overreact. It was just a joke." Notice the structure of this. They have not addressed what they did. They have made your response to what they did the subject of the conversation. The original action disappears. Your emotional reaction becomes the problem to be solved. This is not accidental. It is a redirect, one of the most efficient forms of control available, because it requires you to defend your own feelings rather than their behavior. Deployed consistently, it trains you. You begin to anticipate the accusation before it arrives. You start editing your emotional responses in advance, making them smaller, quieter, easier to dismiss. Over time, you stop raising things at all. A person who has been successfully conditioned this way becomes, in the gaslighter's terms, manageable. They no longer push back. They no longer set limits. They have learned that their emotional reality costs them more than it gains. The tell, when every attempt to express hurt is met with an attack on the validity of the hurt itself, they are not responding to your feelings, they are eliminating them. You trusted them with something private, a fear, an insecurity, something from your past. You shared it because that is what closeness is supposed to mean. Months later, during an argument, they deploy it. "Well, you've always had anxiety. Maybe this is just your anxiety talking. You told me yourself you struggle with trust. That's what this is." What was shared as intimacy has been indexed as leverage. They were not listening to understand you. They were listening to find the point where you are most likely to doubt yourself, and filing it away. This is the coldest element of sophisticated gaslighting. It does not feel like an attack in the moment it is used. It feels like they are simply referencing what you told them. But the function is precise, to take the evidence of your concern and reclassify it as evidence of your instability. Machiavelli observed that the prince who reveals himself fully to his advisors gives them the instruments of his own control. The gaslighter operates on the same principle. What you give them willingly becomes what they use against you. The tell. When your vulnerabilities appear in arguments not as understanding, but as explanation for why your concerns should be dismissed, the intimacy was never safe. This is where gaslighting shifts from incident to architecture. It is no longer about a single denied conversation. It is about the reconstruction of the entire timeline, of who you were before, of what the relationship has always been. You've always been like this. You've always had trust issues. This is nothing new, but it is new. The anxiety is recent. The distance is recent. The problems began when something in their behavior changed, not when something fundamental in your character emerged. What they are doing is replacing your memory of the before with a version of you that has always been the problem. If you have always been unstable, then nothing they did caused the instability. The causation is severed. They bear no responsibility for what they have produced in you. Human memory is not a recording, it is reconstructive. When someone we trust asserts a version of our own history with conviction and repetition, that version begins to compete with our own, particularly when we are already in a state of doubt, which, by this point, the gaslighter has been carefully cultivating. The tell. When the pattern of who you have always been conveniently accounts for every concern you raise, they are not describing your character. They are building a defense. Five signs: systematic denial, the sensitivity redirect, weaponized vulnerability, rewritten history, the recruited audience. None of these on their own announce themselves as gaslighting. Each one can be explained away. That is precisely how they function. The damage accumulates in the space between what you know and what you allow yourself to believe. The protection is not complicated. It is documentation. Write things down, not for evidence against them, but as a record for yourself. It is distance, physical and emotional space in which your own perception can reassert itself without constant interference. And it is the willingness to trust the version of events that existed before the doubt began, because that version was yours and it was accurate. Machiavelli wrote that the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men around him. The first method for estimating whether your perception has been compromised is to look at who benefits from your doubt. It is never you. If this analysis is the kind of thinking you want more of, subscribe to Cold Readings. New analysis every week. No comfort, just clarity.